Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our lesson on habit one of the 7 habits of highly effective teams. Today, we are going to be covering, like I said, habit one, which is be proactive. So while we complete this lesson, I'm going to be flipping through the following slides and we're going to watch a couple videos, read a couple articles. So I'm here to help kind of guide you through this presentation. The presentation itself, as well as all of the resources to complete this activity, are posted on Google Classroom. So make sure that you are following directions as we go through. As we flip through this activity, you're going to listen to the lecture with me here, and we're going to kind of discuss a couple of things pertaining to habit one and the book. This way you can kind of press pause whenever you need to. If you want to listen to something over again, you have the ability to, which is really great. And then when you see this arrow, this kind of tan beige colored arrow that says respond to the questions in the Google form, that's your hint to go over to Classroom and open up the Google form that goes along with this lesson. So I'll show you that now. You're going to have this habit one responses, questions and responses activity posted on your Google Classroom. So you can follow along with the video lecture. I'll have the video lecture posted here. Obviously, I'm recording it right now. And this is a link to the slides document if you want that to go along with this activity. So for each section, respond to the questions asked. Don't skip ahead. It won't make any sense. So here you're going to enter your last name. So I'm just going to enter my initials. First name, Miss. And then you're going to pick your section. So section 22, you guys are our BD day classes. Section 23 is the CE day classes. So choose your appropriate section. Make sure you choose the correct one. I'm just going to hit section 23 just to move along here. So when you complete this, we're going to come to the start of this section, which is the soda water video. So this obviously is going to take a minute to get here. So you're going to have these questions to answer as we go along, but it'll show you in the lecture when we get there. So let's head back in and begin. So in this section of the book, we start to discuss 2 different types of people in the world. Obviously, there are many different types of people in the world, but these are just some categories that we can fall in as human beings based on how we respond to the world around us. So this question asks, which one are you? So we kind of are going to split people today into the categories of reactive or proactive. So I want you to think for a second, have I heard these words before, right? Have I heard somebody say that somebody is reactive or they're reacting to something? What does maybe that mean? And if somebody is being proactive, right, maybe using the root words there and the prefixes, what do you think that might mean? But it's going to tell us right here anyway. So reactive people are people that play the blame game when something happens to them, maybe when something doesn't quite go their way. So there are a couple scenarios here that might tell you if you're more of a reactive person. So if somebody calls you a name, you're going to call them one back, right? You're going to just retort right away and go ahead and call them a name right back. If somebody hits you, you hit them back, right? And this again would refer to most of the time. Hopefully you're not hitting people at all. If you get a bad grade, right? Instead of saying, oh, maybe it's my fault and reflecting, you're going to blame your teacher. Oh, they gave me a bad grade. I've heard that plenty rolling around the halls of the junior high. Somebody gave you a bad grade instead of maybe you earning it. And another reactive reaction would be if you lose a game or you perform badly in a play, right? You blame the other team, you blame outside circumstances. Those are all reactive responses. And people who tend to be reactive tend to react these ways all the time, right? Or most of the time. Whereas proactive people tend to be in control, right? This idea that I am in control of my destiny and I am in control of how I act. So you think before you act, right? If somebody calls you a name, you're going to think about why they called you a name or why they're reacting the way they are before you gauge your own reaction. So instead of just saying, oh, well, you're a blah, 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 right? This person, the proactive person would think, maybe this person's having a bad day, right? Why are they calling me this name? Did I do something to them that made them angry enough to call me a name? So thinking and kind of reflecting on the situation before you act is really proactive. recognizing that you can't control everything that happens to you, but what you can control, what you do about it, right? You have this control over your reaction, so you can't control everybody else or the world around you. Proactive people also recognize that not letting other people push your buttons is something that you have control over, right? Even though there are certain things that upset all of us, right? And our friends, our siblings tend to know what those buttons are. Not letting others push those buttons, right? Not by telling them, hey, don't push my buttons, but controlling their own reaction, right? Not allowing themselves to become upset, to become angry. And even if they are upset and angry, not reacting poorly, right? Taking that time to reflect and thinking before they act. So these are some characteristics that might be able to tell or might be able to help you tell oh my goodness, proactive from reactive people, and maybe guessing whether which one you are most of the time. Now, of course, we aren't all just one thing. This is kind of my disclaimer here. We aren't all just one thing. We all aren't just reactive or proactive, right? We can be proactive and reactive in different situations, depending on what the situation is, right? Depending on what mood we're in that day. How many people have pushed your buttons, right? You might react proactively to the first 3 people who bother you, and then that 4th person, it's just snapped, right? You can't deal with it anymore and you react reactively. Depending on how you slept the night before, right? Did you get a good night's sleep? You wake up proactive. If you slept badly, you wake up reactive, right? We're not all just one thing, but this is kind of a generalization to the way that we react to situations. So now we're going to watch the soda water video. So this is a situation in which you're going to see a couple of students reacting to different situations. So you can see there's going to be a reactive student and a proactive student. And we'll come back to this slide and kind of discuss their responses afterwards. But as we watch this video, I want you to open up your Google form and you can kind of have them going in 2 separate tabs. So we're going to watch this video. I'm going to insert the clip here. And as the clip goes on, make sure you're following along in your Google form to respond to the multiple choice questions. So go ahead and open that up now and I'll start playing the video.
What's up, man? Why are you so angry for?
What do you mean what's wrong? Have you even seen me shoot? It's not me. It's the ball. It's lopsided. I don't have my baller wristbands. People around there look at me, putting pressure on me. They're all staring at me. The wind, when I shoot it, my shot's going off. There's holes in my shoe. What do you expect? Do you think it's not my fault?
You sure that's the problem? Maybe it's just a shirt.
My shirt? Nah, it's not the problem.
Alright, maybe it's not that, but honestly, I don't think it's any of those things you just said. It really helps to hold a positive attitude, you know? Like me. And it's not as difficult as you make it out to be. Dude, check this out. Not even left-handed. See? So you control your attitude. So stop blaming other things. It's not the ball or the wind. Just think of this as an opportunity to improve.
You don't know what you're talking about. Your shot was all luck. What kind of shot is that? I'm tired of sport anyway. I'm out of here.
Jason? What's wrong, Jason? You're not making your shots again?
Dude, shut up. I'm not in the mood.
Whoa. Calm down. But seriously, what's wrong?
Well, I found out my teacher gave me an F in my economics class. And then he called my dad and I got into big trouble when I got home. And on top of that, my sister pissed me off.
Yeah, it does sound like a rough day. But how are you getting an F in econ?
I don't know, man. I think it's because I missed a few homework assignments.
Then why don't you do your homework?
I always forget to do it. I think it's because it's usually due like a week later.
Come on, that's no excuse, man. Here, do you know how to prioritize yourself? Well, let's start. Starting from today, you can learn how to prioritize. Take your agenda. Whoa. I can see why you lose your homework all the time.
Found it. What do you mean? That's just the way I am. I'm used to being unorganized.
Now this is an agenda. Your new best friend. Just write out everything you need so you can remember everything. All your homework, your assignments, your events, and chores. Keep track of things so you're on top of things all the time. Just do this for about a week, and you'll feel and see a difference. Dog. Whoa. Man, you're just like that soda can right there. Because if life shakes you up a bit, the pressure builds and they suddenly explode. You should be like me. Bottle of water. You can shake me up all you want, take off the lid, and nothing. No fizzling, no bubbling, no pressure. They're calm, cool, and in control, baby.
I think I'll wear this one today.
All right, so in that video, hopefully you enjoyed it, we saw kind of two different people's reactions to the way that they kind of chose to control themselves, right? The reactive versus the proactive boys. So reactive people, right? Thinking about our kind of reactive boy who had the one shirt on for most of the video, he made a lot of his choices based on impulse, right? It was kind of in the moment reactions. And at the end there, you saw both of them made this metaphor to the can of soda versus the bottle of water. Reactive people are like a can of soda, right? The one guy said when they were both sitting outside, right? You could see him reading our book. He said that the one student, he was like a can of soda, right? If life shakes him up a bit, the pressure builds and he exploded. And he wasn't able to control his own reactions. But the proactive student, right, he was able to be like a bottle of water. You could shake him up, all life wanted, right? All of the different things happened to him, right? Anything could happen, but he could take off the lid and nothing would happen. No fizzling, no bubbling, no pressure, calm, cool, and in control. So we saw those two different ways that both of these students reacted, and one of them seemed to have much more positive experience, and that was the proactive student. So we're going to focus on a couple of ways to be proactive, to emulate that student's responses. So in this scenario, we're going to practice writing and kind of coming up with lists of reactive and proactive solutions, responses to different situations. For each one of these scenarios, you're going to go ahead and write your answers in the Google form, so you can click into the next section, which is going to be the scenarios. So for each one, it's going to ask you to write a reactive set of solutions and a proactive set of solutions, and then you're going to check the box and move on to the next scenario. So for scenario number one, you're going to respond to the scenario number one questions in the form. The scenario is that you overheard your friend talking about you to a group of other ninth graders. She does not know that you overheard the conversation. Just 5 minutes ago, the same friend was being extra nice to you. You feel hurt and you feel betrayed. So you just found out that your friend has been talking about you. Maybe she wasn't saying very nice things to this other group of ninth graders. What do you do? Okay, so you're going to come up with a couple examples for this scenario, but let's do one together just to kind of go over a couple of these. So some examples of reactive and proactive solutions. Reactive solution would obviously be to walk up right up and tell her off, right? Tell her how much she's hurt you and she's a terrible friend and she's fake and right, all of these other things that you could say to her, maybe that aren't so nice. But telling her off would definitely be a reactive solution. Falling into a deep depression because you feel so bad about what she said would absolutely be a reactive solution, even though that's a really easy thing for all of us to do, right? That's a very normal reaction to feel badly about somebody talking to you, right? That's very human. So sometimes it's really hard to not be reactive, right? You have to actively try to be proactive about solutions. Next would be giving her the silent treatment for being two-faced, right? Ignoring her would definitely be reactive, and spreading rumors about her as payback, definitely a reactive solution. Walking into your next class and saying, did you hear about so-and-so? And making up all of these lies about her. So a proactive solution, right? What would be really the right thing to do here? Taking some time to calm down and then calmly pulling the friend aside, right? It's very different than telling her off. You can still tell her how you feel. You can still say that you feel that she's been a bad friend and that she really hurt your feelings, but taking some time to calm down is the key here for a proactive solution. Ignoring it and giving her a second chance is arguably a proactive solution, right? Thinking that maybe it's not about you and it's about her. Maybe that isn't the right thing to do in all scenarios, right? Maybe addressing it would be a mature thing to do, but in some cases, if it was little, ignoring it might just be better off for you. Next, realizing that sometimes you talk behind her back and that you really don't mean any harm, right? We're not all perfect people. Sometimes you talk about your friends, maybe not something really mean, just little stuff. And talking behind somebody's back, right? Gossip is a human reaction. We all do it, whether we like it or not. So maybe taking some time to reflect and be like, hey, I do that too. And I don't mean anything by it. So maybe she doesn't mean anything by it. And lastly, forgiving her, right? So whatever road you take, forgiveness is definitely a proactive solution because you weren't carrying that burden either. So these are some examples that you could definitely put as some of your answers. So you can take a minute, pause the video here if you need to, and go ahead and answer scenario 1. All right, scenario 2 is up. So you're going to respond to scenario number 2 in the Google form. So the scenario is that you just found out that your little sister got new shoes and your mom has promised you new shoes over a month ago, right? So you can substitute shoes with whatever would make you angry, right? So maybe little sister got a cell phone and you don't have a cell phone, right? That's something that would definitely, I'm sure, set a lot of you off. So you can substitute in whatever works, but your maybe younger sibling or one of your other siblings getting something that your mom or your dad or your parent or guardian promised you, and they're getting new stuff instead. So go ahead and come up with some proactive and some reactive solutions to this. Go ahead and pause the video and complete scenario 2 now in the Google form. All right, welcome back. Scenario 3. So scenario 3 is before school, you were playing basketball with your friends. The other team cheated and ended up winning the game just as the bell rang to report to first period. So maybe, again, you could substitute this with whatever would make you upset. But maybe you were, playing some sort of game. You were playing a game on your phone. You were talking or texting with your friends and something happened. But anyways, there's some scenario where the other team cheated, did something dishonest, and they ended up benefiting or winning the game just as you had to go to first period. So your scenario now is, do I react now or do I go to first period, right? So write some reactive solutions here and then write a couple proactive ones as well. And pause the video and complete scenario 3. All right, scenario number 4. I'm in this scenario. So I am having a pizza party for my students who have been using the skill of getting the teacher's attention appropriately this week. So people that are paying attention in class, raising their hands, you're getting rewarded. So we are going to have a pizza party. When I read the list of names of kids who earned it, your name is not on that list. even though you know you did really well, you used that skill all week long. So what are some ways that you could reactively respond to this and proactively respond to this? Scenario number 4, go ahead and complete that in your Google form. Pause the video here. All right, now that you guys have had some time to brainstorm, let's talk about some strategies to be more proactive, right? What are some ways that we can build that skill? Strategy number 1 is changing your language, right? Just the simple task of changing or actively thinking about the way that you say things definitely change the way that not only that you mean whatever you're saying, or it's the way that other people perceive what you're saying. So instead of saying, I'll try, right, that would be reactive language. Instead, maybe you can say, I'll do, right? So committing to doing something instead of saying, I'll try, like, I'll try this. You can actively say, I'll do it, and here's how I'm going to do it. That's definitely proactive. That's the way I am, right? That's pretty much making an excuse for behavior, right? And certain of us, right, maybe that is the way we are, but saying that I can do better or I can try to do better than that, that's definitely some proactive language. So even though you might not do it right away, right? So you can try to do better, or I can do better, right? Committing to improving yourself is definitely proactive. So instead of saying there's nothing I can do, maybe you can say, let's look at all of our options, right? So instead of shutting somebody down and saying there's nothing I can do about this situation, committing to seeing things a different way is definitely proactive. Instead of saying I have to, you can say I choose to, right? So even though there are things that we have to do as people, right, you're choosing to do them. You always have a choice. You have to do your homework if you want to pass, but you can choose to do your homework and you are going to view it in a different way, right? Instead of saying my teacher makes me do this, right? I have to do my homework in order to get a good grade. You're choosing to do your homework in order to get a good grade, right? You want to pass. You're choosing to improve yourself. So that's definitely some proactive language there. Next, we have I can't. Instead of saying I can't do something, you say there's got to be a way to do something, or let me try to figure out how to do something. And lastly, instead of letting somebody ruin your day, right? Instead of admitting that somebody ruined your day, even though maybe they did, you can tell yourself or tell that other person that you're not going to let their bad mood rub off on you. Definitely a proactive way of viewing things. And even sometimes just saying things can definitely change your own mood. Strategy number 2 is focusing on what we can control. So there are certain things we cannot control, right? Out of this list, which ones can you control? Think about it now. The color of your skin, can you control this? No, absolutely we cannot, right? So that is something that is outside the bounds of our control or other people's control. The weather. Can you control the weather? No, of course you cannot control the weather. Can you control your parents? Nope, you absolutely cannot. They are their own people and they're adults. You cannot control what they do. Rude comments from your classmates, can you control those things? No, right? They make their own decisions. They can say whatever they want, so long as it's not really hurting or threatening you, especially in school. Can you control who will win the Super Bowl? No, we can't, even though Miss Robinson would really like the Buffalo Bills, so let's root for them. And lastly, can you control how we respond to all of these things, to what happens to you? Yes, right? That is the only thing on this list that we can control. So even if the Buffalo Bills lose the Super Bowl, can I control, instead of going into a very deep, sad day where I eat lots of ice cream, instead I can do something if the Bills do lose the Super Bowl that makes my day a little bit more positive. And obviously that's a really silly example, but we can control how we respond to the things that happen to us, and that is what makes us proactive. Strategy number 3, we can learn to push pause. And this is what I find is the most helpful. Out of all of these different strategies, this is the easiest and the most helpful. So learning to press pause is just taking that 10 seconds, right? Maybe it's 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 days, and pressing pause so that you get some time to think about what happened, right? Sometimes in the heat of the moment, right, anger is not the best way to choose your words, right? Anger takes over and your words are suddenly not your own. When somebody's being rude to you, where do you go? Or where do you get the power to resist being rude back? You push pause. Sometimes things are going to happen fast and we do instantly react, but learning and building that skill of pressing pause will help you gain control of the situation. You can choose to remove yourself and gain this dialogue of, hey, I gotta go, like, right, make an excuse to get out of the situation. And then you can think about how you're going to respond, right? We've all had those moments where you're maybe you're cooking dinner, you're on a walk, you're in the shower, and you're like, oh, that's a good response to that argument, right? We all have those moments. And that's what pushing pause would do for us, right? Instead of saying something you might regret, you can make a better decision in the future about how you're going to respond. All right, so now we are moving on again in our Google form. You're going to respond to this quote. And it's a little quick section in the Google form, but this quote is very, very powerful. It's one of my favorites, and it's all over. You'll probably see this other places. It's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it. This quote is definitely very powerful, responds to our proactive nature. So I want you to respond to the Google form about this quote. Do you agree with it? What do you agree with? And give some scenarios. You can go ahead and pause and do that now. So next, we're going to talk about turning setbacks into triumphs, and we're going to read somebody's example. Life often deals us a bad hand, but it's up to us how we control our response. Every setback is definitely an opportunity for us to turn it into a triumph. And although it's difficult, sometimes other people have much more difficult scenarios than we do. So we're going to read about somebody. His name is W. Mitchell. He is a self-made millionaire, a former mayor, a river rafter, and a skydiver, and he has had it pretty rough. You can see in his photo there, he's had some real difficulties in his life. So you're going to read his story from our 7 Habits book. The article is posted on Google Classroom. It's also linked in the actual Google slides. So if you're looking at the slides document while we go through this video, it's linked here as well. So you're going to respond to the questions in the Google form. Let me show you where this article is. So if you go on Google Classroom under 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, this is the assignment we're on. The link to W. Mitchell's article is posted right here. So you can go ahead and click on into that, pause the video here, and complete the questions. All right, hopefully you guys had come back here for our final little section. Hopefully you enjoyed reading about W. Mitchell and his incredible story. So now we're going to take some personal time to reflect. I want you to reflect back on the past week and think about, have you been reacting in a proactive or a reactive way, right? You can flip back and rewatch portions of this video if you don't remember some examples, but hopefully that should help you out a little bit. If you've been reactive, what are some steps you can take to be proactive? Or it'll say in the Google form, if you've been proactive, right, name another situation in which you were proactive. And lastly, what can you do to prevent others from allowing you to explode? What skills can you build to help yourself? You're going to go ahead and respond to these questions in the Google form, and that is the end of our activity for today. So once you've responded to those questions in the Google form, go ahead and submit. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful for you.